Please join us in our opening carol, Deck the Halls. Deck the hall with boughs of holly, fa la 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 la. 'Tis the season to be jolly, fa la 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 la. Don we now our gay apparel, fa la 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 la. Troll the ancient Yuletide carol, fa la 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 la. See the blazing Yule before us, fa la 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 la. Strike the harp and join the chorus, fa la 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 la. Follow me in merry measure, fa la 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 la. While I tell of Yuletide treasure, fa la 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 la. Fast away the old year passes, fa la 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 la. Hail the new ye lads and lasses, fa la 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 la. Sing we joyous all together, fa la 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 la. Heedless of the wind and weather, fa la 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 la.
Good evening and welcome to First Unitarian Portland, where our mission is to nurture the individual spirit and to build the beloved community. And a special welcome to those who may be joining us for the first time. We are so glad you are all here with us for our family Christmas Eve service. We also invite you to join us for our traditional Christmas Eve service at 8 p.m. tonight. Again, welcome. At every worship service, we light a chalice, and our chalice lighters this evening are the Weller-Fills family. If you have a chalice at home, I invite you to light it now.
We are Unitarian Universalists. We light this chalice in faith, in hope, and in love.
Words adapted from Shari Woodbury's Invitation to Christmas. On this eve of mystery and magic, let us enter into the Christmas story as if we were there on the holy night. A parent trusting your body to know what to do when the time of birth comes, or protecting your vulnerable family from unknown threats on a strange journey. An innkeeper who has no room, or will you take us in? Perhaps you are the animals who hear the child's first cry. And when the Holy Family must travel once again, who will befriend them? Who will shelter them? On this silent night, let us search our hearts for our place in the Christmas story that never ends. Let us choose again our role in the incarnation of love. Come, let us worship together.
Our reading is the story of the birth of the baby Jesus, as it was later written down in the Bible. Specifically, this version is from the Gospel of Luke. In those days, a decree went out from Emperor Augustus that all the world should be registered. This was the first registration and was taken while Quirinius was governor of Syria. All went to their own towns to be registered. Joseph also went from the town of Nazareth in Galilee to Judea, to the city of David called Bethlehem, because he was descended from the house and family of David. He went to be registered with Mary, to whom he was engaged and who was expecting a child. While they were there, the time came for her to deliver her child, and she gave birth to her firstborn son, and wrapped him in bands of cloth, and laid him in a manger, because there was no place for them in the inn. In that region, there were shepherds living in the fields, keeping watch over their flock by night. Then an angel of the Lord stood before them, and the glory of the Lord shone round about them, and they were terrified. But the angel said to them, "Do not be afraid, for see, I am bringing you good news of great joy for all the people. To you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, who is the Messiah, the Lord. This will be a sign for you. You will find a child wrapped in bands of cloth and lying in a manger." And suddenly there was with the angel a multitude of the heavenly host, praising God and saying, "Glory to God in the highest heaven, and on earth peace, goodwill among the people." I invite you now to watch and sing along as members of our choirs, who gathered safely outside in a local park, sing Silent Night. The only lights for the singers are the candles that they carry. Sometimes you will only be able to see their candles as they sing. And if you have a candle at home to hold or to place next to you, we invite you to light it while we sing Silent Night together, imagining us all connected by our light and by our song. Our offering today will go to replenish our emergency fund for members. Many people and families are suffering this year, including financial hardship. The money we contribute will allow the church to offer support to our members who are experiencing financial emergencies, like the shutoff of utilities or the need for temporary housing. I hope you will give generously as you are able. And if your family is one of those needing some emergency help, please reach out to the church at ministry@firstunitarianportland.org.
I have a story I'd like to share with you this evening called The Christmas Cat, written by Marianne Mcdonald and illustrated by Amy June Bates. Jesus was beautiful, like all babies. And like all babies, he cried. The night he was born, nothing Mary did could comfort him. She wrapped him in a warm blanket. She fed him, she rocked him. Still, he kept on crying. Every animal in the stable tried in turn to soothe him. Doves fluttered down from the rafters, settling on the creaky stable floor. They cooed and cooed, but they could not stop the baby from crying. The cow mooed low, as she had done for her very own calf, but Jesus cried still louder. The donkey brayed a lullaby, but that made Jesus cry loudest of all. Then a curious kitten crept out of the shadows. Step by careful step, he edged toward Jesus. Reaching Mary's feet, he crouched, wiggled his back, and pounced lightly onto her lap. Rubbing his tiny nose against the back of Mary's hand, the kitten showed that he too wanted his turn to soothe the baby. Mary opened her shawl. The kitten edged in and nuzzled Jesus' neck. Then he began to purr, a calm, contented purr that came from deep inside. Jesus' tiny hand touched the kitten, and his crying grew softer and softer and softer. Soon it stopped. The purring faded away too. And in the blessed silence that followed, every tired creature in the stable was soon sleeping soundly in the starlight. The babies grew close as two creatures can be. Before long, the kitten became a cat. Jesus watched him as he chased butterflies in the tall grass and climbed high in the fig tree. And when Mary put Jesus down to rest in his cradle, it was the cat's turn to watch over the baby and purr him to sleep. One day, an angel came to warn Joseph that terrible King Herod was looking for the baby Jesus. Jealous Herod had heard rumors about Jesus, that this baby would one day be king. Herod's soldiers, the angel said, were racing towards Bethlehem, hoping to find the baby Jesus and destroy him. To escape, the little family would have to flee on their donkey into Egypt right away. It would be safest to travel quietly at night, in the darkness, when the soldiers could not see them. "Hurry, Mary," said Joseph. "We must leave now, this very night." Rushing, Mary and Joseph packed and loaded what little they could on their donkey. "Where is Jesus' cat?" Mary asked, just before the sun went down. "We must find him." So Mary and Joseph combed through the tall grass, searched the shadows near the fire, and looked high in the branches of the fig tree, but the cat was nowhere to be found. "We can't leave him behind," cried Mary. "We must," said Joseph. "It's too dangerous to stay here even one day longer." So just as the sun set on the hills behind in Bethlehem, the little family set off on their journey. The desert air was chilly. Mary held Jesus close, hoping the rocking gait of the donkey would lull him to sleep. But Jesus needed his cat. He clenched his small fists and he screamed. Campfires glowed on the nearby hillside. Where Herod's soldiers sheltering there? Were they sheltering there with their swords? What would they do if they heard Jesus' cries? "I wish the cat was with us," Mary whispered to Joseph. But Joseph only nodded, his eyes constantly scanning the horizon. But the cat was with them after all. To make sure he wasn't left behind, he had hidden in the basket tied to the donkey's warm flank. When he heard Jesus crying, he woke up and began to wail. Jesus shrieked with delight, reaching toward the basket with his chubby arms, and with one strong leap, the cat jumped into them. "Shush, shush," whispered Mary as she cuddled the squirming, licking, loving friends together. When at last the two settled down, the cat again began to purr. The rhythmic rumbling, as always, soothed the baby, and Jesus fell sound asleep. Inside Mary's shawl, he and his friend curled closer together, keeping each other warm as the donkey carried them far from Herod's soldiers and their awful swords. Far away to the safe land of Egypt. Love had saved them. The cat loved the baby Jesus, as only a child's cat can. And Jesus loved him back as only a cat's child can. For of all the cats and all the children everywhere, they were meant for each other. From the very first Christmas night in the bright starlight. The author who wrote this story took her inspiration from a medieval legend telling about a litter of kittens that was said to have been born in the same stable as Jesus on that very night. Surely also intrigued by this tale, the 16th century Italian scientist, inventor, and artist, Leonardo da Vinci, made a series of drawings called La Madonna del Gatto, meaning Madonna of the cat, Madonna referring to Jesus' mother, Mary. In his drawings, you can see Mary contentedly holding the young Jesus on her lap, whose little arms are wrapped around his beloved cat. Have you ever had a special friend in your life of the human or animal kind that is always there for you? Someone who helps you feel better when you're upset about something? Someone you trust. And when you're with them, you can share whatever you're feeling and be yourself. Sometimes that friend is also a family member. And you might be that person for someone else. That kind of friendship is a true and powerful kind of love. Christmas can be a time to reflect on the gifts of love, friendship, and family that we have in our lives. Just like the baby Jesus, we all need these in our lives. And what's really powerful, we can share these gifts with one another, ever growing the power of love.
Winter night, clear and bright, a weary world is sleeping, and then a cry fills earth and sky. A newborn child is weeping. Hush-a-bye, lullaby, blessed little baby. Drops of pain flow like rain, tell why your tears are falling, for humankind so frail, unkind, or for your own life's calling. Hush-a-bye, lullaby, blessed little baby. Holy child, every child, your life will have its season, and each new day your heart may pray for grace, for peace, for reason. Hush-a-bye, lullaby, blessed little baby.
The Christmas story tells of the birth of a child, Jesus. We do not know much about his real life, not for certain. The stories were not written down until long after he had lived. But we do know that people were drawn to him as he grew up, and people were so inspired that they followed him. He promised people that there was a better way to live, and that they had the power to make love real by the way they lived their lives. And even today, after thousands of years, the stories about his life still inspire people to live with more love in their hearts. Christmas Eve is a special night when we celebrate his birth long ago. But every night a child is born is a special night, because the possibility of more love is brought into the world with each child that is born, just as it was when you were born. Remember, it was love between Jesus and that kitten that helped the baby Jesus and his family stay safe in our story. As we end our service and welcome the spirit of Christmas into our hearts, may we remember the good news that each of us can be a source of love. Christmas is about gifts, but not just the gifts we receive. Christmas is much more about the gifts we can give to one another and to the world. And that is good news for sure. Go in peace. Practice love, and Merry Christmas.
Please join us for our closing carol, Go Tell It on the Mountain. Go tell it on the mountain, over the hills and everywhere. Go tell it on the mountain that Jesus Christ is born. While shepherds kept their watching o'er silent flocks by night, behold, throughout the heavens there shone a holy light. Go tell it on the mountain, over the hill and everywhere. Go tell it on the mountain that Jesus Christ is born. The shepherds feared and trembled when low above the earth rang out the angel chorus that hailed the baby's birth. Go tell it on the mountain, over the hills and everywhere. Go tell it on the mountain that Jesus Christ is born. Down in a lowly manger the humble babe was born, and God sent us salvation that blessed Christmas morn. Go tell it on the mountain,